now a recording. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. Okay, so regarding the board meeting or the elections next week, I think that it might just be the current board members again and stepping up, but be prepared to be here next week so that we can vote on that. I think that right before we get started, let's just make sure that we have all of the roles filled in. So our Toastmaster is not here today. Sarah was going to be Toastmaster, but she stepped down. So I can be Toastmaster. If nobody else wants to volunteer for that, I'll take it. Okay, and then can we have somebody else volunteer to do the table topics? That was going to be Ty, and he's also not here.
I can do that. It won't interfere with what I'm doing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Denise. And then we also need an odd counter and a timer.
I'll go ahead and time.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Heather.
I can do the counter.
The odd counter, okay. Are you pretty familiar with that, Kalani?
Count the ums, likes, any.
Yes, any words that aren't supposed to be there, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. So we have the positions down. In that case, oh, yes.
When does that start?
You can start now.
Okay.
The whole meeting. Start right now. Catch me on anything that I'm doing. Okay, we will go over to the Toastmaster of the day, which I guess is myself. I don't have a lot prepared to say in absence of not knowing I was going to be doing this role, but I will introduce the theme, which is summertime. I think that today is actually, was either today or yesterday was the first official day of summer, the summer solstice, so very appropriate topic for today. And I know that we are going to have one speech today from Forrest, who is on location, which looks pretty cool. So with that, I will give it over to Denise to introduce the evaluation team.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will be the general evaluator. It's my role to oversee and evaluate the entire meeting from the beginning on whether it starts on time and ends on time. And I do this with the help of a team. And so I will introduce that team to you right now. For our counter, we have Kalani. And then Kalani, you just kind of go over what your role is as the counter. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm here to catch filler words.
Thank you. Kalani will give a report at the end of the meeting when I call on her. And our timer for today will be Heather Davis.
Thank you, Denise. So this is going to be Forrest's first icebreaker speech. So it's going to be 4 to 6 minutes. And then table topics would be 1 to 2. So I'll be checking and timing you. And then at the end of the meeting, I'll let you know how y'all did.
Great. Thanks, Heather. So I'm going to assume that our Zoom master is Chanel. Is that true, Chanel?
Yes, yes, that's
okay.
me.
Okay, I'm gonna make sure. And then we'll all come back at the end of the meeting and give our reports to you. Thank you. And at this time, I will introduce the Toastmaster of the day, Chanel.
I think that Denny did not get to give her word of the day.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me go back. How did I miss that? My apologies, everyone. It is my honor to introduce today's grammarian, Denny Mason.
Thank you, Denise. So our word of the day today is, it's not going to be the standard one. I decided that because of all of us coming out of the pandemic right now, patience is a good word. Because we need to be practicing patience with each other. Everybody's a little frustrated and it comes out in weird ways. So patience is the quality of being patient, bearing of provocation, annoyance, misfortune, or pain without complaint, loss of temper, or irritation. How about that? That's quite a word for today is patient. If you could use it in a sentence, that would be great. I'm going to count it. I'll count up everybody who uses it, and I'll give a report at the end.
Thank you, Denny. I think that patience is the perfect word. I know I can use patience, and almost everyone that I see on the freeway driving home could use patience as well. Back to you, Chanel.
Thank you, Denise. And it's my privilege now to introduce our speaker for today, which, is this your first speech, Forrest?
This is actually my second speech.
It's your second speech. Okay, I might have missed the first one. So Forrest's speech today is going to be about modern wetland restoration method and techniques. And he will be speaking about his job with Ducks Unlimited as a habitat engineer. Everybody, please put your hands together and welcome Forrest.
Thank you so much. So good afternoon, everybody. I am out here in the San Joaquin Valley, just outside of Los Banos. This is an area that I work in quite frequently. There are large wetland complexes in this area that we both enhance and restore. There's been a lot of upheaval with the wetlands historically in the last 100 years. The valley looks very different today than it looked 100 years ago. And the wetlands have probably suffered the greatest result of that change. So that's a little bit about where I am. And so what we do is we restore historic wetlands. And how we do that is we use grant funding and also private donor money to both evaluate the wetlands, but then also provide the money for the construction in the enhancement of the wetlands. And we do that via grants. And so the first stage would be to go out to a site and take a look at it and do something called the scoping visit. So we'll go to a site, we'll look at it, we'll evaluate it, we'll see what the features are, what we want to enhance, what problems we want to mitigate. And so that's all encapsulated in the scoping visit. After the scoping visit, we will take that information and we will input it into a Google Maps method of a file type called a KMZ. And so basically what that does is it allows you to draw on aerial photos to represent certain elements. And once we've kind of cataloged all the elements we want to enhance or restore, I will then take that information and I will push it into my GPS RTK survey equipment and take that out into the field and do a GPS RTK survey. And so GPS RTK is a very precise method to survey. It utilizes satellites. It utilizes a fixed base station. You can probably see it behind me. It's that thing on the tripod over there. So that fixed base station is on a fixed point. It's always set up there. And the way we get the precision in what we do is we triangulate the shots on the property from the satellites in the air to that point. It's then received by this unit here. So this is my survey rod. This basically takes the shot information. It uses the base station information, also the satellite information in conjunction to give you a very precise elevation and northern and easting shot on this particular location. And by doing that, by performing this very precise survey on this piece of land, it gives us a digital model of what that piece of land looks like. And it allows us to then further evaluate that piece of land for how we're going to enhance or mitigate certain factors. So once we've taken that GPS RTK survey, I'll go back into the office. I will take that data, push it into something called a DEM, which is a digital elevation model. It takes all those shots in the field and it turns it into a digital model representation of what's actually out there. And so using that, I then design on top of it for the improvements that we're then going to construct later. So what we do, we go out and get grants. We design enhancements to wetlands, and then we go and we construct those designs. And that's kind of what we do. We do the full service from evaluation to end construction. So why do we do these things? What is the importance of these areas that we would spend so much money, and there's a lot of money spent on these areas, and why do we do that? Well, the reason is these areas are very important ecologically. And I want to talk a little bit about what the valley used to look like before we came in and started changing it. So the valley is a very, very flat area. It's got about, I think it's about 500 feet of fall from one side to the other. And it's a very large valley. So there's this very slight slope from the north to the south. So you have all these rivers coming out of the Sierras. And before we did any changes to the landscape, these rivers would hit that flat valley and they would fan out into these big alluvial plains. Alluvium means sediment moved by water. And so the reason why this is such a premier place for crop production is because of this alluvium. All these minerals wash down from the mountains that then spread out onto the valley, and it's just millions of years of deposition, and it creates this very rich soil. So that was basically how the valley was set up before we came in and made all these changes. And apparently you could take a boat from the south end of the valley all the way to the north end of the valley. You wouldn't even have to get off the boat. Can't do that today. All the waterways are cut up. And so what we did is we came in with cattle initially. Miller and Lux is kind of the prime example. They came out with their cattle and they started grabbing the land. They put cattle on it. Once they had cattle on it, they had rights to it. They'd stake it out and they'd move on. They started in the south end of the valley and they moved north, and they just kept taking pieces of the valley through the cattle. And so once they had kind of grabbed all that land, then they started turning over the better parts to farmland. And so that's why there's so much farmland in this valley, because it all used to be wetland complexes. And they're very, very fertile, very good for growing crops. So they turned all those wetland complexes into agriculture. And what we're left with today are just the very last remaining features of what historically used to be there. And those are the areas that I work in. And so we are trying to enhance those areas, both back to their natural state, but also because we've lost so much wetland to agriculture, to ranching, to subdivisions. We want to take these historical areas and enhance them to be the best habitat they can be for the smaller footprint that they are. So that's kind of what we do. We also do the things that we do because it provides water services. The wetlands are a historical groundwater recharge location. And so by enhancing these areas and giving them water in the wintertime, you know, just these small areas, they will infiltrate and they will recharge the groundwater. Wetlands also clean water. So they basically are the lowest points in the valley. They take all that agricultural runoff that goes into the wetlands. They run through the wetland colonies of plants. The water is cleaned and then it goes out to the ocean. And so that cleaning of the water is a huge ecological service of the wetlands. And with so much farming in this area, it's very important that we clean that water because there's so much contamination. And the wetlands provide a very cost-effective, economically viable way to do that. We take them for granted these days because they're just here. But once they disappear, you know, we have just dirty water going into the ocean, we're going to feel those effects. Another reason why we do this, obviously, is for the habitat. We are the figurehead for our company is the mallard. It's a duck. But by improving habitat for one species, you improve habitat for many species. So the duck is our figurehead, but we benefit multitudes of species out here through our work. So how do we do these things? So I talked about the scoping visit, go out and evaluate. Then we do the GPS RTK survey. You know, I talked about how the satellites communicate with the base station and the rover, which is out in the field with you. And then once that's done, we create a DEM, bring that back in the office, we design on it. Then from that design, we push it back out into the data collector, and I will go back out in the field and stake out the plan that I've come up with. And the staking involves lath, which is this, just a stake, and then different colors of ribbon to denote different things. And so I'll stake the alignments. Either it's going to be a swale or a levee. That's generally what we build. Swales are low points that help channel water. Levees are high points that help impound water. And those are the two basic methods we use to enhance these wetlands. The contractor then uses these alignments to then go through with their scrapers and move a lot of dirt, based on destaking and constructing the project as was designed. So I will put the stakes out. I will also put out things called hubs, which is an elevation benchmark. So staked in 2/100ths of a foot, which is about that much. So that's how precise our designs are. By changing the water levels or the water inundation areas, you change the plant colonies, you change the ecology. So it's very important to track that water level very carefully and also design to it, because it's going to have a great effect, you know, between 6 inches of water and 2 feet of water is a very different ecological consequences and effects. So I've talked about what we do. We create habitat. We provide conjunctive services in terms of you know, water engineering, how we channel water to it. By that, the wetlands get the water that they need to function. And we do this because we care about the environment. We love the wetlands. Primarily, a lot of our members are hunters. They love to come here and hunt ducks. And by increasing the habitat on these areas, we increase the amount of ducks, which is both a benefit for the hunters and also wildlife advocates. So it's kind of a win-win in a strange nexus. As a result, we are the largest wetland restoration organization in North America and probably the world. Up to this point, we've conserved 15 million acres since 1927, and we are on track to conserve 1 million acre per. Share with you what I do for work, and I appreciate your attention. Hello.
Thank you, Forrest. Sorry, I'm trying to.
Okay, I'm sorry guys, I can't hear anybody, but I'm done.
There we go. Yeah, you were cutting out a little bit, but just towards the very end.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
No, it was great. I found that very interesting because it's a topic that I didn't really know anything about. So I learned a lot. Thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome.
All right. So we decided, Denise, you said you were going to do table topics. Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
With that, then I will pass it to Denise.
Great. Thank you, Chanel. Forrest, that was fantastic. I have to tell you, I knew of Ducks Unlimited. I had a neighbor who was an avid duck hunter, and you have completely like just changed my thought process on that logo and that duck head. I didn't realize all the work that you guys do, and it's so important so that those you know, so that we all can like live together in harmony as one's doing, you know, something to make the world a better place. So anyway, I thought that was fantastic. Thank you. Seeing as it's summertime, I thought we might want to talk about some of our favorite summertime activities in our table topics. So I had a couple of ideas, and then I'm going to include suggestions from Ty that he had, and I'll put those in the chat. But just starting off, the first thing I would say is, you know, when you think of summer, what is the thing that you think of? And you can't discuss the heat, seeing as we're all from Fresno, that's obvious. Then if your family was the type that always went on a big summer vacation, maybe talk about which one was your favorite. And then I've put them in the chat so that you can see the other questions there if you want to pick one. Ty had put, if you could change one decision in your life, what would that be and why? if you've conquered a fear, what was that fear? And the last one, if you were given the opportunity to host a late night talk show, what would it be about and why? So you have quite a selection there. We have plenty of time. There's only a few of us. I think that, Heather, maybe we won't hold somebody to the 2 minute since
Okay.
there's just a few of us. If you guys wanted like 3 minutes, you might not even need it. But why don't we start with you, Kalani? Everyone's going to get a chance to share. So
I'm sorry, it was 3 minutes, correct? I don't mean to.
yeah, we'll give up to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Somebody needs that.
Do we have to go to 3 minutes?
Nope.
Okay. Perhaps on the second round, I'll elaborate.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. I'll do summer because that's the one that I remember off the top of my head. We will begin now. Summer for me is slightly different than those who grew up here in Fresno. I'm originally from the coast, and in the coast, it is 70 every day, all day, any time of year. Therefore, I never really learned how to swim.
Oh.
I'm currently in swim lessons this summer because I am choosing to get rid of that. I know we're not allowed to speak about the heat, but I'm not used to this. And if I'm going to live in this, I will learn how to swim. Next week, ironically, I am leaving for a month to Utah, where I will continue to show off my swim skills and am extremely thrilled. We have plans to go to an amusement park out there, but in terms of summer destinations as a family, it's not necessarily something I'm used to. I will have to adapt to what it is like waiting in line while warm, and it will require a lot of patience on my end that I'm not prepared for, but I will do my best. And that is the conclusion of my speech.
That's great, Kalani. Yeah, it sure puts a perspective on people, a different perspective when you're used to living here and it's just part of your life. That's why we all go to the coast. All right, Chanel, I'm going to go to you next. You can choose any of the 5 questions you want to answer.
I didn't get any of the questions in the chat.
They're not in there? Did I not hit post?
I didn't see
not
it.
Hit enter?
I don't see them either.
That helps. That magical enter button.
Sure. So I'm also going to answer the summer activities question. What comes to my mind is actually a bit of a childhood memory. When I was growing up, my parents would ship my sisters and I off to our grandparents who live up in the Tacoma, Seattle, Washington area for about 2 to 4 weeks every summer. And those are some of my really greatest fond summer memories, is getting to spend that time with my grandparents. They had a beautiful yard. My Nana was a gardener, and she always had flowers. And if you've ever spent any time in the Pacific Northwest, it's very green. Everything's green, very unlike Fresno. Things grow very easily, so it's beautiful. Summer up there is very mild. It's about an average of 75 every day. And my grandparents would take my sisters and I and just spoil us to the hilt for the entire month that we were up there. My Nana would get up every morning and cook us pancakes and bacon and eggs and give us breakfast in bed, and they would take us on trips to the city. One summer when we were very young, my sisters and I arrived only to find that my grandparents had actually built a playhouse for us out back. Now, I think a lot of parents or grandparents, if they want to get their kids or grandchildren a playhouse, you would go down to the store and you would buy maybe a plastic little playhouse or maybe a wooden one if you're willing to spend more money and set it up. But my grandparents decided that no, they were actually going to build it themselves, and it was actually going to be a miniature house. And so they built us this playhouse. It had electrical, it was insulated, it even had a porch on the front, like real roofing, entirely a house, just miniature. And there are many great memories like that of our time spent up there. Sadly, my grandma passed away 2 years ago, and my mom and her uncle, or my uncle, ended up selling their home. So that was a little bit sad because it is a place with so many memories, and now we have spent our last times there. But I will always remember those times very fondly.
Oh, Chanel, that's so sweet. I can't imagine. I mean, that you had the first mini home.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but how sweet. What a great memory. I love that. Heather, how about you?
For me, I was going to answer the question about the family vacations. For me, growing up, my favorite memories where we always went was the same place. It was Knott's Berry Farm. Because they loved the peanuts and the whole, that theme of Charlie Brown. My dad we call him Charlie Brown because he's just that kind of guy. And so we would go down there, just that once a year every summer, and we would go to Knott's Berry Farm. We would go to Soak City, which I don't know if you guys know. It's like this huge water park that's like a block away. So we would get our hotel. We'd stay at like Knott's Berry Farm Hotel. Then we'd go roller coasters all day one day. Then we'd go to Soak City the next day. And you don't have to drive anywhere. You could just walk, which is great. Yeah, and they had the huge lazy river. It was just so much fun. I always enjoyed it. My family never really did other vacations, so like it was always such a treat for us, and it was always us kids growing up doing that. And another fun thing on that same vacation that we would go and do would be the medieval nights, where they did the reenactment for the princess, and that was just always fun. And I got a flower one year by the really nice blue handsome knight. So it's just silly memories like that always just make me so happy and thankful for my family, because now that I'm older, that's not cheap to do those things with the full family. And so I really appreciate it now, and I long for those family vacations again. So I look forward to being able to do that with my family and even my own future family. So that's my summer vacation.
Thank you, Heather. That sounds awesome. When I was younger, I think my family went on one really big, there was 5 of us girls, and money did not come easy. And when my parents were first married, so we had one really big trip, and it was big. It was Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry Farm, and Disneyland. And my dad managed to fit in an Ontario 500 race, which we were, as kids, we were a little bit bored about that, but and so it was a huge deal, an absolute huge deal. I think the only thing we ever did other than that as a family, all of us together, was Santa Cruz one year. So yeah, you're a lucky girl. That's awesome. It looks like Danny might be busy. Forrest, did you want to share anything from the table topics, or you talked out? Can you hear us, Forrest? We're having some technical difficulties. Denny, are you available?
Well, I'm here, but there's dogs barking in the background, of course.
Can you pick one of them up and we can see it? No?
No. Believe me. I can talk a little bit about summer. I would never talk about Fresno heat because I'm from Phoenix. Oh. So I can talk about Phoenix heat. When I grew up, I'm looking at the temperature out here right now. When we moved to Reedley, people said, "Why would you move here?" And I know that everybody leaves so that they can get out of here. But I love it. I love the heat. And the only reason I can live in this is because I grew up in Phoenix. And so it's not as hot here as it was in Phoenix. But the heat was something that motivated me. Growing up in the desert, I hated plants that didn't have any leaves on it. I just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to go somewhere where there was a leaf on a plant. So when I graduated high school, and I graduated a semester early, when I graduated high school, my car was packed and I was ready to drive away and get out of there. And I moved over to LA right away, where I lived for a very long time until we came to Reedley. So the temperature has affected my life. There's no question. I still can't handle cold weather. I don't know why it is, but when I go to cold weather, but I'm living in hot weather, I cannot imagine the clothes that I need to wear in cold weather. I just can't imagine that any place could be colder than a sweater. So I always suffer with that. I always have to buy clothes when I go somewhere, but that's the way it is.
I'm with you, Denny. I agree. I would rather be in our summer times here than in cold weather. And then in the summertime with the air conditioning, I'm always freezing because unnatural air just affects me different than natural cool air. You know, the artificial air is anyway. But so I'm on your team with that. I like the heat. All right. Did we get Forrest back? How you doing, Forrest?
Oh, Forrest, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. I lost connection, and hopefully you can hear me now. So just thinking about the question about summertime, and also just the question about family vacations, and the first thing that came to mind for me when I hear summer is always the ocean and wind. I spent many summer days on the ocean in one form or another, generally on some form of watercraft, be it a kite surfing, windsurfing, surfing, paddleboarding, just anything to get me onto the water. And that's really what I think about when I think of summer is water sports. And since we're not allowed to talk about our time in the valley here, it's very different for me now. So I'm so far away from the ocean, but that is my kind of historic thing I think about when I think about summer. And if we have a little bit more time, I'll just throw out one more aside. Just the whole family vacation thing. I think I remember, I think I mentioned that my mom passed away when I was pretty young. I was 16 when she passed away, but we did have a couple family vacations that were very memorable in India, around the ages of 13 through 15, somewhere in there. But we used to go to this little town called Oroville, which is it's about 3 hours outside of Madras and 1 hour outside of a town called Pondicherry. And it's this funky little hippie community that was kind of planned. It was planned through a spiritual, two spiritual teachers, Sri Aurobindo and this woman, French woman called the Mother. They built this community there, and they built this huge structure called the Matra Mandir. It's a huge geodesic globe, and then in the middle of it, it has a huge meditation chamber with the world's largest crystal ball in it, and it's got this shaft of light shining down onto this massive crystal ball, and you go in there. It's very, very groovy. But this thing was designed to emulate a lotus flower, and the Matra Mandir, which is the geodesic globe, is in the middle. It's that thing in the middle of a lotus flower, and then they did these gardens off of it that created the petals. And so I would recommend anybody go onto Google Earth and just type in Oroville and check out this structure. It's very impressive. But I spent a couple summers there with my mom, on vacation from boarding school, on the beach in Oroville. And that was where I first saw my first traction kite, which definitely changed the trajectory of my life. I started chasing wind after that. But a traction kite is the same where you get the word tractor. It's a very powerful kite, and it's really what started the whole kite surfing movement. And I saw my first traction kite there. There was this French guy there with his very beautiful girlfriend, and I was like 13, and I was just enamored with them. But he taught me how to fly this kite, and I just kind of went with it and became a very avid kite surfer and water sports person after that. So that's my summertime story.
Thank you, Forrest. And you know, we have some Great Lakes here in the Fresno County area. So people from LA and all over come here to go to our lake. So you can always try that when you miss the ocean. Chanel,
I have tried.
Actually, I'm going to introduce myself as the general evaluator, and I want to thank everybody for sharing. Of course, we had a lot of extra time today, and there's just a few of us, so it was a really nice opportunity to get to know some other parts of your guys' lives, which is always my favorite part of Toastmasters. So I'm going to start with our evaluator, and Heather is going to evaluate Forrest's speech. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Denise. So I just want to preface this and say this is my first time evaluating Forrest, so we're doing this together. But from what I saw, let me time myself, sorry.
I can time you.
Oh, it's okay, I got it. From what I saw, and what I heard, I really enjoyed your speech. It was very informational. Like Chanel said, there are a lot of things I didn't know, and I always enjoy learning new things. You talked about restoring the historic wetlands, which I'm ignorant to say I didn't know we even had anything historical like that. So it's so cool to see that happening here in our Central Valley. I loved how you used your surroundings, how you were outside, especially with what you're talking about. It definitely related to your speech, which was great. You know, your props, your survey rod, your quad in the back. It was just great. I love the setup. You clarified, you know, terms that I would never know, like alluvium, and you were just very informational. You said that this is what we're going to talk about, and then you said it, and then you wrapped it up. I will say you kind of did that a few times, whereas you're like, this is what we said, or this is what we're going to talk about, this is what we said, and this is what we did. And you did that about 3 separate times. So your speech ended up being 11 minutes and 24 seconds. So it was a little bit longer, but it was your very first one. And from my own experience, I have a tendency to want to ramble when I get nervous. I'm not saying that you did. I just more information. There's more things that you could talk about, which is great. So I'd encourage you to maybe talk about those things in your next speech. The only other thing I would say was love the hat, but anytime you look down, I didn't see your face. And so that's the only one drawback. So just be aware of that. But other than that, you were within frame, you were good. And I think that it was a great speech, and I really look forward to future speeches. Thanks, Forrest.
Good job, Heather. So congrats on your first evaluation as well. Next, I'm going to bring up our counter, Kalani, and I imagine she's been busy at work.
Hello, everyone. So this is also my first time doing this. If I'm not mistaken, I don't evaluate Forrest's speech, being that it is his first one, correct? Oh, I'm sorry, you're muted.
It's actually his second speech.
Okay.
And I apologize if we didn't give you better instruction, but yeah, you always evaluate the speaker, but the first couple of speeches, you're right. We don't really go that hard on new members.
Okay.
So, it was his first speech or his second speech?
Second.
I'm so sorry, Forrest. I thought this was your icebreaker. My apologies.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's fine. That was great feedback. Thank you so much.
Okay. So first off, I have Denny. I have 1 and 2 and so's. Then Denise, I have 2 and 3 and so's. Heather, I had 7 uhs, 2 and so's, 4 likes, and 2 Chanel, I had 0 drawn out ands, and I thought that was fantastic because that's really hard for me. I had 1 like, 3 3 uhs, and 3 so's. And then for myself, 2 very long ands and 3 so's.
Great job, Kalani. That's really good. I'm actually proud of I'm proud of myself. I usually have more. And now for our grammarian report, Denny Mason.
Okay, our word today was patience, and I saw that Denise used it, and I saw that Kalani used it. Did I miss anyone else? Okay, that's our today.
Thanks, Denny. Okay, well, thank you guys. I guess I do my part. We started on time. We're definitely going to end on time. I think everyone did a great job filling in for each other. This is where we really shine. Sometimes this happens. It's just a day where we have a very few people, but we come together as a team and we do a great job. Chanel, this was your first time as president, and so interim president, I should say. You did a great job. I'm going to give it back to you.
All right, thank you. I think I'm supposed to give out virtual stickers. I think we should get some real stickers, or I should say real virtual stickers for the chat. I'll look into that. Forrest, it looks like we lost Forrest again, but virtual sticker to him for his second speech and for doing it. Oh, there we go, Denise. Virtual sticker to him for doing his speech on location and managing to fit it in, even in the middle of his work schedule. I like that a lot. Virtual sticker to Heather for doing her very first evaluation. Good job. And also to Kalani for doing All Counter for the very first time. Ooh. And I suppose I could give virtual stickers to all of us just for taking on extra roles today. So good job, everybody. With that, I think the last thing to do is to begin filling out our schedule for next week. So those of us who are here, I know we won't be able to fill it all in with the 5 of us, but if you're here, you get first dibs. So what would everyone like to do? Denise, you're muted.
You can put me down as Toastmaster. Hugging is my thing.
Great, love it.
I love grammarian, but if like somebody else wants it, I'm willing to give that up, but I'll take it.
Oh, go for it.
Okay.
Danny, are you going to be here? Did she leave again? Okay. And Kalani, are you planning on being here next week?
I may be on the road. I'm not too sure yet, but I'll take off counter in the time being because I may do a lot more work today.
Okay. And I'll put myself down for... Oh, we're supposed to have 2 speeches next week, so I'll put myself down as an evaluator.
And I can evaluate.
Oh, Jenny?
Chanel, my suggestion is not to worry about table topics because we're going to have our election. That'll take a few minutes. We can always think of things to talk about. I mean, like if you want to throw Farron or Joey, because I know they're going to be here.
Yeah. So
that,
I'll
and then we can, yeah.
Okay, that sounds
sufficient.
I'm sorry, guys. I got to get going, but have a good rest of your day.
I think we're wrapping up anyway.
Bye, Heather.
Okay, so I'm not supposed to say anything else, right? Except
you can give your thoughts of the day if you want.
I think I have any thoughts.
All right. Well, we did a great job. Then we ended it early, and I didn't get to smell a puppy, so.
Oh.
You want to see a puppy? Look.
Yes, I do.
Those are little baby puppies.
Oh,
they're just born.
One of my favorite smells, puppy breath.
You're not old enough to have puppy breath yet.
Oh, soon, right?
Soon,
All
yes.
right. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you
Thank
next
you,
week.
everybody.
I'm
Have a
taking
good
off.
night.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.